Welcome back to the show. Line 1, Cabot Martin, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy.
Morning, sir.
No, I'd like to phone in about the AGM yesterday, Nalcor AGM, and it was, I don't know where to start because it was quite an experience. You know, we were there in the Holiday Inn, where Nalcor was bragging about how much money they were spending and calling it assets and bragging about how it was all going to be repaid by the ratepayers anyway type thing. And down the road, of course, in the House of Assembly, they were busy fighting over who goes and who stays in the public service. I mean, it was a bit surreal, you know. But I thought the pivotal moment was when there were many. I thought Danny Dumnes did a good job in trying to pin them down, but at one stage I was asking Ed Martin, have you redone the numbers for more realistic oil prices that justify all this? They use 135, and everybody in the world in the energy business is using 50 to 60 now. And Ed was he was trying to say that no, we haven't looked at that, and we're kind of saying. And then Ken Marshall, who's the chairman of the board of directors and a well-known downtown lawyer, he jumped in and
Ken Marshall's not a lawyer. Ken Marshall's not a lawyer.
Oh, isn't he?
No, Ken Marshall is the Atlantic president of Rogers Communications.
Ah, Rogers.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's strange, yeah. That may have explained his misunderstanding of his role as chairman of the board, because he said, no, we haven't looked at this, and we're not going to. And he doesn't seem to understand that as the board of directors has an oversight role with respect to the decisions and recommendations of management.
I would imagine Ken is fairly familiar with the role of a board, considering he's a senior executive for one of the biggest telecom companies in the country. In all fairness.
So I don't quite understand how, where everybody else in the energy world is doing project reviews, why he says, no, I'm not going to do it, because then Ed Martin says, oh yeah, we've spent $2.5 million or something. Then he said, yeah, and $5 million on top of that, which all added up to $7 million already spent. And I said, well, would you make this public and explain how you came to those numbers? And basically they just didn't do it, right? They wouldn't commit to it. So I thought that it was, I call it a parallel universe. I mean, Nalcor is proceeding with this project, which really hasn't made any sense since 2011, when it was obviously, that's how I got involved in this. From my background in the shale gas business, I realized that gas prices in the United States are going to collapse. There's no market for energy down in the States. Project doesn't really make any sense.
So we got it all sold, don't we, in Nova Scotia?
We got it all given away.
No, that's not true.
Yes,
you continue to say that, but that's patently not true.
Yes. And by the way, the power doesn't come from Muskrat, see? The power comes from Bay Spear. That's why the first power for the Maritime Link is fixed at 2017, because if Muskrat doesn't come in until 2020 or never.
Didn't they say yesterday first power's in 17, full power 18?
Well, but they're disconnected. See, there's no Emera are going to buy AC power at Beta Spear at Grand Canal.
That's right.
They're going to take it and convert it. There's no basic high. There's no off ramp for Muskrat Power to Emera. They're drawing it based on the Beta Spear assets.
In a serious question, what difference does that make where the power comes from that they buy? Because considering that the ratepayers of this province will be on the hook for every single dollar spent in Muskrat Falls and for the upkeep of Holyrood, Steenville, Hardwood, Beta Spear, and everything else.
Yes, but that's like saying, I don't know what it's like saying. It makes a big difference to me that we've given away all our secure, low-cost power at Beta Spear to Nova Scotia, and now we're going to be dependent on some sort of project which is totally open-ended as to cost. We had our energy problem solved. We did not have a problem. Now we're going to have a big problem because we've alienated our prized jewel, which is Bay d'Espoir. But I think there was another sort of telling moment there. I was trying to point out that the people in Happy Valley Goose Bay and Mud Lake and the Allard camp, the construction camp that's on the North Spur, are at risk. And you have to be, they say safety is our first priority. Well, the safety of those people should be included in that slogan. And I was bringing up Dr. Ben Anders' work, a man who I have great respect for. And Gilbert Bennett tried to dismiss him as some sort of academic. He said, we don't have time with academic debates. Well, Dr. Ben Anders happens to be used to be the chief design engineer for the largest construction company in Sweden. He has more knowledge in his little finger than Gilbert Bennett has in his whole head.
Well, I'm not sure that helps.
Why would you? Gilbert Bennett has no experience in building dams.
He's not building the dam. He's hiring people to build dams.
He's managing. You can't have a man who's vice president making all the decisions who doesn't have any experience.
Well, we got people.
What kind of game is that?
We have people at the helm of manufacturing companies that never made a doodad in their life. They're managing projects. They're managing business.
I think you will find that manufacturing could be a more forgiving occupation.
But I think
trying to build a mega project up in the wilds of Labrador.
Was there ever going to be an opportunity, Cabot, based either on Mr. Grimes' plan at Gull or any other plans that have been discussed for Muskrat Falls? Was there ever going to be an opportunity in your mind to take advantage of hydro assets and build a dam on that river or two?
Since 2011, I've come to the conclusion, as the continuing low prices of gas in the United States is proving, and as the shale gas revolution proceeds around the world, that energy prices in North America in particular will not support. You should not spend money on something that costs more than what it's really worth. Power in the United States now, and actually Ed Martin gave a couple of examples. Power selling in the United States for 4 cents a kilowatt hour, 5 cents a kilowatt hour. And when you add on the cost of transmission, you can't justify building Muskrat.
So
it's an act of folly.
Okay, so
it has been since 2011.
Okay, I've always been confused about the price of fossil fuels argument, though.
Let me conclude that last
very quickly.
Because what's apparent now is that we don't have the money to blow. That's the only surprise element since last fall.
Ratepayers are paying for it, not the government.
Yeah, but you can't do that to people. You can't come up with a scheme which burdens all people and call it just a rate increase when you're really talking about a tax. It's a governmental measure. It's a tax on the people. It comes out of the left pocket instead of out of the right pocket. And you can't have people being so cavalier with the people's money. And that's why I was absolutely shocked when Ken Marshall says, we haven't looked at, we're not interested in navel gazing. That was the phrase he used, navel gazing.
I saw
We're not interested in that. We may have made a big mistake, but we're not going to try to figure out how big it is.
That's a problem for all of us, and I wonder, will either political party bring an investigation into how much it costs to cancel or to halt the project now, what the lowest cost option would be based on the new price of oil and gas and the activity in the United States? Even though a lot of that is slowed down, even though we know that all it takes is the Saudis to bomb in Yemen for the price to spike 9%. So there's a lot of tricky parts to this conversation. We can't just refer to them all as navel gazing. We can't dismiss the contrary point of view because that's what led us to where we are. Cabot, simply because of the time on the clock, so we're out of time. But you're welcome to call at any time because there's a lot to this conversation that I'm happy to entertain.
Yes, and thank you very much.
Appreciate your time, sir. Have a nice weekend.
Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.